So then we move again to see other brands, like what are the brand values? There was already Tinder. Why did you need Bumble? What is the ultimate value that your brand stands for? That is very, very important. So Tinder was already solving the problem of dating. Bumble came in and which made, like, in every dating app you will see that 90%, 95% are like male members and 5 to 10% are female members. So every dating app has the same story, like 10% female and 90% male. So Bumble empowered the female because they understood that the whole power in a dating app lies with the females. So basically, female got the first right to reply. If they don't reply, it doesn't work. So you have to understand what is the underlying reason for which your particular product is working. So what is the what is the ultimate value that your brand stands for? So that is most likely the pillar for your content and story. So that you have to understand. For like Bumble, 90% was boys and 10% was girls. So they empowered the female population much and give them the right to like and reply. So yeah, this is Bumble story. Make the first move. So then again, we can talk about the essence of a brand is what drives its positioning. Like positioning is again one of the most important point. Like what are you going? How are you positioning yourself? What is the problem that you are solving? So that is something that you have to make sure that is very very important. Like when you say a particular, like the most common ads, like when you're talking about Coca-Cola, so they said ki anybody who's asking for thanda, thanda means Coca-Cola. So people said like if anybody is asking for thanda, it means Coca-Cola. So you have to identify like what is the brand going to look like and how the positioning is going to look like. So when you talk in India, like when you were talking about a scooter earlier, it used to be Bajaj. So something like that. Like what is the position going to be? Like how are you going to position your product? So that definitely includes the brand persona, emotional benefits, functional benefits, features, and attributes. So like for Airbnb, we can take for example, the Airbnb basically makes people belong anywhere. So you can go and rent a place anywhere. Personality, authentic, friendly, open-minded, adaptable, and adventurous. So the whole place is to you yourself, and that's why you can use it the way you want. It's authentic, it's friendly, like you can have all the additional services that you want, pretty much adaptable and adventurous because it's totally up to you how you want to use it. Then there is an emotional benefit, feeling at home, taken care of, welcome, safe, empowered. So it's not like a hotel where you have like different kind of rules to go by. So that's the emotional benefit of. Then there is functional proof, selling experience, guide customers from start to finish. So the whole Airbnb experience is very interesting. So that's how it is. Non-tangible proof, great storytelling, inspiring imagery, and technology. So these are essentially the brand story creation workshop we covered. What are the brand essence and values? What is the single most important thing about you and your brand that you have to identify? What is the reason to believe? Why do you believe in your brand the way you believe? We have to find out that. What are some words that describe the character personality of your brand? Figure out the keywords. Like you have to definitely figure out what are the keywords for your brand. Like what are some words that can describe the character and personality of your brand? So you have to figure out this. What are your positioning and mission statements, if any? Do you have a tagline? What is your tagline? How would you describe your relationship with your customers or potential customers? So these are like some of the very basic questions that you need to answer. Like if you guys want to make a note of it, you can make a note of it also. So whenever you are going for branding or marketing, these are like some of the very fundamental questions that you need to answer before actually start marketing or branding your product. Like if you don't have this clarity in your head, you will face a lot of problems later on. So these are like some of the very fundamental questions that you have to answer about your brand. So more or less, this is what the whole branding exercise is all about. I'm happy to take any questions here on.
So there is one in the chat box.
Okay. So basically, how can a brand stand out in already competitive domain? So you have to see your competitive advantage. So whenever a company becomes a little bit bigger, they are solving particular problems and they are already in a competitive domain. Also, there are multiple subdomains. So you have to see if you are like exactly solving a problem. So there are two things. First, it's a already competitive domain. How do you know? Like, is the brand big enough, which everybody knows? If the brand is not big enough and not everybody knows, and it's not a common knowledge, so I don't think problem has been solved as much as it should have been. So the place is pretty much open. And the second thing is like in every competitive domain, there is a subdomain. If you are solving a problem better than what other people are solving, then you have to start with that. Like this is the exact problem which is not solved in other brand which you are solving. So figure out where your competitive advantage in this particular domain and go with that. That would be what I would say. So I'm already also putting my email ID here in the chat. So if anybody have any query or anything, they can reach out to me on that. And any more questions from anyone is more than welcome. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. So Bhushan is saying in our starting phase of career, should we explore how to validate an idea? Okay, that's a good question. So I think validating an idea, like the biggest validator is the market. So you have to do a market research. You have to like getting the surveys filled with your friends and everything is definitely a very good thing. And like for example, like I again told you, like some of my friends are raising funding for dark warehouses and they have not done anything as such. So they just created the PPT and reached out to investors and they already have a commitment of more than $5 million for that particular idea. So a lot of times if it is a painkiller, if it is a problem, you reach out to the people who are concerned. So more than asking your friends, more than asking your like peers, it is good to go directly to the users who are going to use your product and go and talk to the investors like whether they would be interested in investing that kind of a product. So you can go directly to the source, go to the people who are going to use a product, go to the people who are going to invest it. And if they says, yes, this is a real problem and we would like to work on that, I think that's a good enough validation for your idea. And then Bhushan's question in our starting phase of career, should we explore all domains of business or focus on one that fascinates us like marketing PR? So obviously, so there is, look, basically whatever problem you are going to solve, it definitely has to fascinate you. Because if it is not sparking joy, if it is not something that you are passionate about, it is if it is not something you feel very deeply about, you won't be able to solve. Because a startup is a place which is very competitive. So you have to deeply feel about the problem you are solving. It has to fascinate you. It has to spark joy out of you. You a lot of times you are in the startup space or you are in the entrepreneurial space not for the money but just for the fun and thrill attached to the whole thing. A lot of times people don't earn any money for 2 3 years. So it is just your fascination or your basically liking about the idea that will keep you going. So don't go into an idea that you don't like or you are trying to solve for the money. And then there is, if a company has a person like Elon Musk who has a prominent social media presence, just it justifies them not having a marketing team and use some money to be spent on marketing to improve things. So marketing these days is predominantly digital marketing, right? Marketing as we used to know ATL and BTL, that is pretty much gone. The days are gone. Like the marketing has converted into digital marketing. And Elon Musk, like it's an interesting statement. Like Elon Musk earned more money from crypto than he earned from all his 15 years of entrepreneurship. So that is also like he used his digital media, Twitter. The kind of money he earned from Bitcoin and Dogecoin in 6 months was more than what he earned in 15 years. So that is crazy. So it makes a lot of sense to use the digital channels, but I will still suggest spend a good amount of money on marketing. I think marketing is the product has to be really good. I agree with the Karthik. If it is not a good product, it is no use to market it. But once you have a good product ready, it also requires a good deal of marketing also. So marketing is something which helps you. So as I told you, like in the marketing, what is most important is to identify the user persona, which are the kind of users who are going to use your product. Once you identify the user persona, then definitely put 50 of those kind of people, define the user persona, and go for a very targeted marketing. It really helps. Even if you're fundraising, even if you're selling your product, If you can identify your user persona, so one of the reasons for marketing is that it brings you sales, and sales is one of the best things that can happen to any company. Sales solves everything. So if you are going to sell your product, then then also you have to market. So marketing is one thing you cannot avoid. So Suhami is asking how COVID-19 affected the startup culture in India. I think it's like a, it's like from a both end. Like it affected very badly in the initial time, but at the same time, then it was very good also because a lot of internet companies and startup companies they realized that the COVID-19 situation can happen again, and because of that, a lot of money came into Indian startup world. Like I think last year itself, like India had more than 35 unicorns, which is amazing. Like nobody had it. I am in Singapore. I keep on meeting people, but Singapore I maybe have two or three or four unicorns. But India had more than 35 unicorns, and one of the reasons India had so many unicorns is because a lot of money came into the Indian ecosystem. One of the other reason was a lot of money that came into Indian ecosystem was because China banned English. Nowadays you cannot use English in China, so that is also which prompted a lot of money from China to come into India. So I think it hit very badly in the beginning, but later on it has a very positive impact because internet startups, e-commerce startups, they got a lot of boost in the COVID-19 space. So I would say for the startup space, actually COVID-19 was good. It was not bad. So how do we think of a new idea? I mean, in almost all fields, multiple products already. I don't think that's a problem. So basically, there is a thing called idea generator. So Ankit Misra has this question. So I would say, Ankit, there is a thing called idea generator. So you can see like there are multiple stages of an idea. You can break down an idea and you see there are multiple stages of an idea. And once you define the idea, you can solve different problem in a similar idea. So there is a thing called idea generator online. So in the idea generator, you can do go and it keeps on giving you multiple options. So you can build your idea through that also. So ideas are like you have to understand like whatever we have done is pretty small. There is a big amount of space which still needs to be covered. So I don't think idea is going to be a problem. So it's more about brainstorming. Sit down, write down your idea, break up it in multiple different verticals, and try to improve on that. Thanks, Ankit. So Urs is again asking, what is your personal advice for the students who just entered college? So I would say, guys, this is the best time of your life to start a company because when you are just in the college, you are like 17, 18 years old, 16 years old. This is the right time because you guys are kind of naive about the world and which is the best thing about the startup and like so my niece is 17-year-old and she already won more than 70,000, 80,000 US dollars by participating in different hackathons. There are a lot of hackathons which keep on happening around you. Participate in those hackathons, win prizes, learn coding because these days full stack development is one thing that is very much in. If you guys know coding and if you guys like participate in hackathons. I know a lot of 17, 18-year-old people who became like, who earned like $500,000 to $1 million in this last 2 years. So I think it's a very great chance for the people who are like 16, 17, 18, 19, because they are just young and right kind of age to delve into something which can be very challenging. At the same time, they have the age and mindset in their favor. So participate in hackathons and like try to make it big. Why not? So Nidhi Samant is asking, what are the challenges you faced in the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey and how did you overcome them? Wow. So I started like post college. I started my company in 2014, and it took me 4 years to come to the point where we had a revenue of 1 million USD. So in the beginning, there are a lot of problems. You won't find the right kind of partners. You won't find the right kind of employees. You won't have enough money. So there are multiple challenges that you will be having in the beginning. So that's why you have to do what you really like to do. And initially there will be like so many challenges. Like it is like even difficult to count. So you have to be really passionate about the whole thing. So initially I did not have like the biggest challenge that I faced was hiring the right talent. Although we were a HR company, but hiring the right people to work for you when you are a small company is very tough. People don't want to work with you when you are a small company. So I think if you can find, so for Nidhi, like my biggest advice will be that if you can find a co-founder, that helps you a lot. So one of the things that I recall looking back is if I had a co-founder, that would have been amazing. That's do you think it's feasible for a startup to sell its shares for expense, or it's better to take a loan? Yeah, money is like a very difficult thing. So I think whatever works does, like if you are getting money for in the beginning, it's more the startup journey. A lot of times, startup journey is more about survival than making it big. So you have to make sure that you are surviving, and for that, if you have to, like I know a lot of people, a lot of startup founders who have raised $1 million to $2 million, and they have 80% equity, and now they have to shut down because they cannot raise any further amount of money. So equity, even keeping a lot of equity doesn't do you much good. So if you are finding the right investor, if you are finding the right founder, so be always prepared to dilute the equity, because keeping a lot of equity doesn't really help. Because a lot of people think they need to keep a lot of equity, it doesn't really help. Taking a loan is always a difficult choice. Like loans would be something which you should try to take in the last as a last option, because when you take a loan, then you have to pay it back also. So whenever you have to pay it back, it's a liability that keeps on building. So taking a loan is always something I would say keep it as a second or third option, not as a first option. Yeah. Anybody else? Any questions? Okay, guys, we give you 2 more minutes, and if anybody has any question, please write in the chat box. I'm happy to answer. Yeah, taking a loan is keep it as a last option, because then you have to pay back the loan as well, which becomes so as a startup founder, keep your startup as lean as possible. Like your expenses has to be as less as possible. Don't try to build up your expenses. So the lesser expenses you have, the better it is. And loan is definitely it should be the last choice, because you have to pay it back also, and you don't want a liability hanging your head. But at the same time, if you think you can land a big deal, or you can expand your startup, so if it makes sense to you, why not to take a loan as well? Okay, guys, in next 2 minutes we will close this down. So if anybody has any questions, this is the time to ask. Otherwise, we will close it down. Okay, Sakshi, I think nobody has any questions.
There's one question in the chat box. What are your tips on building a good
Okay,
team?
I'm not scrolling, so that's why I think. Okay, 42 unicorns in 2021. Thank you. How would you go about thinking an idea start? So Yusuf has asked a question: how should we go about thinking of an idea for a startup? So Yusuf, brainstorming is like you have to see, like it has to be a real pain which you are solving. So you definitely have to see what is the problem, what is the pain you are solving, Yusuf. That is very important. And when you are thinking about an idea, like it is always good to like think it out, like extrovert it, brainstorming, and talk out to people who are your friends and family and people around you, who are the people who are going to use this product, and everybody else. And a lot of ideas are most of the times, like some of the best ideas actually come very casually when you are like just chatting, having fun, and then you come up with something very interesting. So I think brainstorming, talking out to the people who you think are smart, startup founders, people who are going to use your product. So these are the kind of people you need to talk to find it. So then, what are your tips on building a good team? Okay, that is really tricky. But I think when you are building a good team, Kayur, the most important thing here is like the person who is joining you, he should not be joining you for money. That is the first thing. Like if somebody is joining you for money, that's a bad idea. Like in a startup, they have to know that it's a small company, it's a startup, and the problem that you are going to solve, you might not have any money actually in the beginning. So the people who are coming to you in the beginning, those are the people who should be coming for your vision or the mission statement, not for your money. So that is very important. And hiring a team is more like sales. So sales is like you reach out to 100 people, 95 people, 97 people say you know, but 3 people say you yes. So that is what is very important. So get as many reference as it is possible. Do cold reach out to as many people as possible. Introduce them as many people as possible in the beginning. because it is always difficult to build a team in the beginning. So you have to reach out to as many people as in the beginning and see who are the right fit. So a lot of times startup hiring is more like you have to see if the guy is making sense. Put an extra, like if you really like a person, put an extra attempt to bring them into the team. And if you don't like them that much, be very straightforward to say no also. Because in a startup, it is very important to say no to the people you don't like. Otherwise, you don't have the bandwidth to have an extra person in your team. Okay. So what are your views on open source contributions? Should I explore that in first year? Absolutely. Open source contributions are the best, and in the Web3, most of the solutions are open source. So I think open source is something which needs to be much bigger than what it is. And like for everybody who are in their first year, second year, even 12th graduate, I would definitely suggest them to participate in as many hackathons as you can, because it by participating in hackathons you can earn very decent amount of money. Okay. Thank you, Bhusan, for you being learn. Hardik is asking what would you choose and why opening a startup and when you are young without industry experience or after gaining experience. I think experience is very overrated, Hardik. I think you should have decent knowledge, maybe 6 months, 12 months, but after a point of time the experience become repetitive. So if you know enough, that's good. Like don't go after trying to acquire experience too much. Experience is very highly overrated. A lot of times you can see people who are 18, 20, 22, they are even becoming millionaires because they are just going out and doing what they like to do. So don't think about experience too much. Okay, thank you everyone. I think that's it. I think that's it, Sakshi, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, wonderful.
So thanks a lot, sir, for first of all removing time for us and providing us with such good insights. It was a very enriching experience for each one of us. And I would also like to thank all of you all to join in for this session. Uh, Thank you. We hope you all liked it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you everyone. Wonderful. Always it's wonderful connecting with youngsters and be happy. Like don't think twice to reach out to me on my email if you need any help. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, sir.